The Lane Kiffin drama has finally reached its crescendo. The Tigers have a new head coach, and Tulane is now looking for a new head coach to run their program. We're talking about that and so much more today on the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast. And welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast. Appreciate you listening in. As always, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us today wherever you get your podcasts. And also, check us out on social media. And, brother, this is usually the day where I'm kind of recapping everything that happened across the state of Louisiana. But today, I think it's very, very different. We've got a lot to get to, mainly when it comes to the two big headlines of the day. One of those is going to have major ramifications. And we'll get to that one right out of the gate because it's everybody wants to hear about, and that is the Lane train pulling into the station, at least for the time being, for the foreseeable future. Lane Kiffin heading over to LSU. And there is so much to unpack with the drama that was surrounding it. It kind of almost underscores the drama regarding the complications with the Brian Kelly story. The Brian Kelly saga was absolutely a mess. But now we look at Lane Kiffin, him exiting stage left. And we're going to break down some of the stuff. It's definitely one of the more interesting departures that we've ever seen. Mainly because Lane Kiffin kind of just let it all out there, basically burning a bridge he was already standing on. And he was standing on business at least somewhat, saying that in a post on social media, saying, after a lot of time and prayer spent with family, I made the difficult decision to accept the head coaching position at LSU. I was hoping to complete a historic 6-season run with this year's team by leading Ole Miss through the playoffs, capitalizing on the team's incredible success and their commitment to finish strong, and investing everything into a playoff run with guardrails in place to protect the program in any areas of concern. My request to do so was denied by Keith Carter, despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high level of performance. Unfortunately, that means this past Friday's contest against Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl was his last game coaching the program. While I'm looking forward to a new start with a unique opportunity at LSU, I will forever cherish the incredible 6 years I spent at Ole Miss, and I will be rooting hard for the team to complete their mission and bring a championship to Oxford. Seems like a really great thing to say this. And it's an incredible moment to look back on, is the departure of Lane Kiffin. And especially when you look at the history of his departures, they've been incredibly awkward. You go back to Lane Kiffin with his head coaching gig at 31 years old, going over to the Oakland Raiders. Back in 2008, he was let go. And it was very short-lived. 5-15 in his first 20 games, and he was fired during his second season. And Al Davis basically buried him in front of the media, saying, I think he conned me like he conned all you people, and featured an overhead projector, kind of just laying everything out. And then you have him going over to Tennessee. He was able to find a job pretty quickly. But then in 2009, things did not last long. He finished 7-6 with a tough loss to reigning defending champs Florida, and almost beat Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide. And he took a job with the Tennessee Trojans after the 2009 season, after Pete Carroll decided, hey, I'm out the door. I'm not going to deal with this. And a longtime Tennessee equipment manager, Max Parrott, basically said, they'll think you're trying to sneak Lane out of the building and they will bust all your windows out. So he went back inside, waited out a few more minutes, and put out a few mattresses that were on fire. Hoo boy. And then also you got the obvious tarmac incident, him leaving before the national championship game when he was with Alabama. A lot of stuff has happened with that program over the years. And we're just seeing, again, this is being recorded on Sunday night, reports are coming out that Lane Kiffin is be talking to the media in Baton Rouge officially 3:30 tomorrow. So we'll definitely get some insight on things over the next couple of days, see how things are. Again, Keith Carter more or less said, no, you can't coach Ole Miss in the college football playoff. And reportedly, some coaches are going to be making the jump over to LSU. According to Matt Zenitz, a handful of guys are going to be jumping over. Most notably, you have wide receivers coach George McDonald, general manager Billy Glasscock, senior associate AD for football ops Thaddeus Rivers, and strength and conditioning coach Nick Savage. And this is one that's also being brought up, again, from Matt Zenitz as well as John Talty, saying that Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator, is currently expected to be part of the staff for the LSU Tigers. And those guys, especially the offensive coordinator, I think, honestly, you can only go up from here when you look at what that offense did this past season. And yes, Garrett Nussmeier was hurt, but even then, that was, I've said it all year. I think Garrett Nussmeier was a perfectly suitable quarterback, but he wasn't this elite guy I think a lot of people were making him out to be. Just my humble opinion there. So you've got to think about that. And that's the biggest thing you're going to need to fix. And Lane Kiffin is an offensive-minded kind of guy. So we could see some really cool things happening with this program offensively. Now, more importantly, more likely than not, according to a lot of reports, Blake Baker is going to stay aboard with the program. That's the right decision to be made, I think. If you are a program that needs to keep the essential guys, this is someone you have to keep aboard, because he was the highlight for a season that could have been a whole lot worse if the defense was trash. I mean, they kept it competitive against Oklahoma this past week. And again, and Oklahoma's not a bad team by any metrics. They were ranked number 8 for a reason. But the fact that LSU was able to keep it a 13-17 ball game is something to be commended. Holding Alabama to 20 points. I mean, you only had really one truly bad game all year, and that was A&M allowing almost a 50 burger. Outside of that, you kept everybody under 35. It's like you were driving around Southwest Louisiana in certain towns, 35 miles an hour. That's how much you were keeping them under. A lot of highly competitive ball games, yes, and you lost a lot of those because of the horrid offensive performance all season. You don't believe me? The fact that LSU did not score 30 points at all this season, I don't think from what I was reading, I think that's the only FBS program that didn't score 30 points in one single game against an FBS opponent. It's ridiculous. So Lane Kiffin's going to have to rebuild this offense from the ground up. Now, he's got some guys in place, and it feels like he's talking to some guys right now. We've been seeing some photos and some reports with Austin Thomas, who's the current general manager for the LSU Tigers. He's going to be having a talk with Lane Kiffin. Frank Wilson, seen talking to him. These guys are going to be pounding the table to keep their jobs. And they absolutely should be making that statement, making that elevator pitch to stay aboard. Because at the end of the day, I think guys like Frank Wilson, Blake Baker, they are absolute assets. Frank Wilson more so on the recruiting trail, getting some guys out there that are going to fit this program. And more importantly, be able to start fence building across the state of Louisiana and getting some guys that maybe you missed out on last year, especially because there are reports. We haven't seen the full details of the contract. We'll be seeing those tomorrow. But the reports are apparently there's, I think, $25 million on the table for an NIL collective pool to pull from. So let's just say hypothetically, a guy like Bryce Underwood Michigan lost to Ohio State last weekend. Their CFP dreams just went poof. Who's to say Bryce Underwood in this wild, wild west of NIL, the transfer portal, could just say, hey, I'm going to go over to LSU, the place that I definitely felt like was going to be the right fit for me, and try and win a natty with that program. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between now and January of 2026. The calendar just slipped over to December. We're getting close to the early signing period. Then we're going to get to the transfer window. Then we're going to get to the true OG National Signing Day. There's a lot of stuff we're going to be breaking down in the weeks and months to come, especially when it comes to the world of recruiting. But seeing Lane Kiffin, the drama surrounding that, because this has been going on for days, pretty much right after the days leading up and right after the Egg Bowl, everybody had been talking about Lane Kiffin coming over. I was one that said he's not coming. I'll gladly eat crow. I will gladly eat crow. But I will include a buyer beware statement here. And why do I say that? It's really quite simple. Is when you look at Lane Kiffin's history, he has jumped around programs to better himself. Again, he had been over at Ole Miss since 2020. Like, you look at his reputation. He was at Tennessee for a year, jumped over to USC, was there for 4 years, and then went to the Betty Ford Clinic for head coaches, Alabama. Left there before the national title game, stuck around at FAU for 3 seasons, then jumped over to Ole Miss. Now he's jumping over to LSU. I am just saying, if in 2 to 3 years, Kalen DeBoer doesn't get a natty, I would not be surprised if Alabama fires him and Lane Kiffin jumps ship. So buyer beware with Lane Kiffin. He may love you. He may get Whit Weeks and the Weeks family some extra money and say, hey, you're part of the family. Let's go ahead and have some fun. Because obviously, Lane's daughter is dating Whit Weeks. And also credit to him, man. Dude is a absolute gamer, and glad that he was able to kind of show up in the regular season finale, because he could have just said, yeah, I'm done for the rest of the season. That's just how it feels to me. But everything else, I think everything else going on, it's going to be intriguing. But I definitely feel like I'm going to eat crow and say that I thought Lane Kiffin was not going to go. But lo and behold, here we are. December 1st, 2025, Lane Kiffin is getting introduced today. And a name that I was definitely bandying about, I did nail. And that is John Sumrall. He is exiting stage left to the University of Tulane. He's going to the University of Florida, taking over the job for Billy Napier. And it feels like 2021 all over again. LSU gets the flashy name. Whenever they had probably a perfectly good head coach right there in the state of Louisiana, they could have gotten, I'm going to say, quote unquote, on the cheap. Now, John Sumrall is jumping from Louisiana to Florida, leading the Gators program. And it kind of makes you wonder a number of things. And it's going to be the same conversation I think a lot of people over in the state of Mississippi are going to have regarding Lane Kiffin and him not coaching. And I've been seeing a lot of discourse about this over the last few days. And it stinks for Ole Miss. If I'm talking about it from their perspective, I think losing Lane Kiffin stinks for a lot of reasons. But the biggest one, I think, is because of what happened a few years ago with Florida State. They lost their quarterback in the regular season finale before the championship game. And that pretty much put them on the outside looking in at the college football playoff, despite being a very good team the entire season. They deserved a shot to be in the CFP. Mind you, they showed up in their bowl game. Hardly anybody on the program that was worth anything, and they got boat raced. I don't think that would be the case if you see Ole Miss with their new head coach in tow in the college football playoff, because they still have some absolute dogs. It's not like they're not going to show up for this game if they make the college football playoff. People are saying, oh, their head coach is gone, they should not be part of it. I call BS on that. And it's the same when it comes to John Sumrall. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Because I think they can win that game. Now, mind you, what's crazy is in the AAC, it's going to be North Texas and Tulane. Both of their head coaches just got jobs somewhere else. So, again, we're going to talk about that probably a lot more in the next few days about the state of college football and how silly season kind of exposes one big issue. But we'll save that conversation for another day, because I do want to get to the news concerning John Sumrall jumping ship to Florida and who could be next to lead the Green Wave. And I think there's one name in particular that's screaming at me, but I'm intrigued by it, is Charles Huff over at Southern Miss. And yes, Southern Miss had every chance to make it to the Sun Belt Conference Championship game this weekend. But a lot like the Atlanta Falcons, they blew a 28-3 lead. They just needed to win one game to get into the championship game, but did not. Troy Trojans are taking that slot. Shout out to them. But could he jump ship after just 1 year, leading the Golden Eagles to go over to a AAC team that feels like they are ready-made for the long term to be a powerhouse in the group of five? They're playing North Texas in the championship game on Friday night. If they win that, I feel like unless JMU boat races Troy, they're going to be a program that gets to the college football playoff and be the lone representative for the group of five, because it feels like that's the way it's going to be. It's a lot like how you see some programs where you're not going to see more than one mid-major per conference in the NCAA tournament unless it's a really strong group like the American, or back in the day, the Big East. You don't see that often, two representatives, unless it's a very good conference that particular year. The AAC has been a lot more consistent, and they're going to be one that 9 times out of 10 is going to have a representative in the top 25, and that is going to be pretty much an automatic lock. Now, John Sumrall did a fantastic job. I think credit where credit is due for Willie Fritz to be the guy for this program. It's just making sure that you have everybody that is in place right here, right now, and nail this hire going forward. That is going to be the biggest challenge for this program, is to make things work. You got to make it set up, and you need to nail that hire. Hopefully everything is going to be good over the next couple of weeks during this transitional period and finding a head coach. Past the AAC championship game, everything else is TBD, especially when it comes to making it to the CFP. We'll definitely be talking about that over the next few days, especially on Wednesday's show once we see the latest college football playoff polls and get that much closer to bowl season. That'll about do it for today's edition of the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast. Appreciate you listening in as always. We'll talk to you next time, so make sure you subscribe to us today wherever you get your podcasts.